are here to pick up their very own brand new Patriot camper, and they're on an epic trip, but they have a story that is just incredible. So why don't you tell everyone kind of what happened and then what your mindset became after everything that happened and what you guys are planning on doing coming up.
We had, I had returned from Iraq, and we had decided to move to Alaska and to pursue college as teachers. And when we graduated, we had accepted teaching positions in the Alaska bush. And we had gone out there for the summer to get to know the students and, just acclimate.
Yep.
I gave our children, who were 8 and 10 at the time, a chance to get to know the kids in the community. And we were there for the summer, and there was a playground that was not assembled, that was just there by the school. And so we thought, this would be a good chance for us to work with the community and all of us get to know each other. And so we built the playground that summer.
It was a perfect icebreaker.
Yeah.
All the kids got together and we all worked on the playground throughout the summer. And
What community was this?
Anvik, Alaska.
Anvik. So is this, can you drive into there or only fly?
No, it's a fly only. It's a small Athabascan Indian village in interior Alaska. It's a small village on the Iditarod Trail that runs through it.
Huh.
So
it's a Balto and that other guy went by somewhere.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So
Togo.
then Togo, yeah. All right. So then one day you were leaving or you were just heading out?
So we had went to teacher in service at the beginning of the school year, before the start of the school year, and we were heading back from McGrath, because McGrath was the school district's headquarters. So we were heading from McGrath back to Anvik.
Oh.
And when we were flying back, we were flying in a small Cessna 207, and our weather just changed.
And you're passengers? You're not piloting?
I was in a co-pilot seat.
Okay.
Rosie was behind the pilot. Julie, another teacher, was sitting directly behind me. And then our 2 kids were sitting in the rear of the plane.
Okay.
And the weather changed on us unexpectedly. And the pilot had tried to gain elevation.
Yeah.
He went and tried to go underneath the clouds. We just couldn't do it. And he must have saw something out his left side window, and as soon as he banked to the right, the mountain just came into view, and we just head on into the mountain.
Wow.
So, unfortunately, Ernie, the pilot, and Julie, another teacher, they lost their lives on impact. And, our daughter was thrown from the plane. Our son was trapped underneath. We sustained multiple injuries or multiple fractures in our backs. Our legs were busted and facial. Our daughter her intestines were severed, and our son had his entire face had to be reconstructed. His face was pulled forward several millimeters.
Unbelievable. But you're alive, and now you're in the middle of nowhere. And
we were there for 16
what do you do?
hours.
So when we first
16
hours. So my son and I, we would go on some back country rafting trips, and at the time the spot satellite, the GPS receiver, we would carry that on our backcountry rafting trips. And I had noticed that the pilot had one when we got into the aircraft, and I was like, oh, that's cool. It's the same one I have.
Yeah.
It's just and unfortunately, I don't think we weren't operating on a frequency that was monitored by the FAA, from my understanding. And I know that they were able to find us because of the spot. So the spot literally,
Wow.
So it activated on its own because of the crash, I guess?
I ended up finding it.
Oh,
Okay.
so you're just crawling around at this point with...
I tried to make communication, but every time I'd hit it, the lights would just flicker and just go dead. Everything would just die. So we lost all communication, and so
Wow.
it was intense.
Yeah. So at this point, you guys are all injured. You were able to find each other
I couldn't move. I was trapped from the legs down.
in the plane still.
Yeah, the way the plane crashed,
Yeah.
my legs got embedded in the bottom, like the floorboards and stuff.
And when we had crashed, the tail somehow had lifted up, and our son's seat had folded under, and the tail had come to rest. So our son he wasn't in the plane with us. He was actually exposed
Outside.
to the
He
weather
was trapped from the
underneath the
lights.
floorboards. And our daughter was thrown from the plane. And eventually I had heard her, whimpering, and I was able to, remove myself from the plane, and I was able to crawl out to her and bring her back into the plane. And, when we were out there at the school, we had a satellite for internet, and some of the trees were overgrown into the satellite dish. So while we were at in-service, I had grabbed a pair of blockers just to trim up around the satellite dish. And I was able to use those to cut some of the floorboards in the plane to release some of the pressure off my son.
Oh, nice.
And
Start to extricate.
we had everything all the tools that we needed
Wow.
were provided for us to survive, to survive the 16 hours.
Wow.
And then the Alaska Air National Guard, they ended up eventually locating us, and they had one group that parachuted in.
Well, they'd first come at night, in the middle of the night, they'd come, but we could see them, but they couldn't get to us.
Oh, but they knew you were there, so.
Eventually, once they shot the flares,
Yeah.
we knew. And
What
They
was
left.
that feeling, because you're laying there for
very
16 hours?
intense, because plane crashes aren't uncommon in Alaska.
Right.
In my mind, I was thinking that it was becoming, the way things work, that they're thinking that it's solely going to be a recovery effort.
You've crashed now, you're laying there for hours on end, you hear the rescue, you hit the spot button and you don't know whether the communication went out or not, so that feeling must be just unbelievable. And then all of a sudden you hear these rescue vehicles and then the planes or helicopters, whatever it was, and then they circle around a bit and leave. So we were kind of at that point, that's got to be so disheartening.
Very, and and during this time, she's having convulsions and passing out.
I was pregnant at the time. We had just found out the day before we flew.
We found out the day before we crashed that she was pregnant. And, I probably watched, in my mind, I watched her die 100 times a day.
That's gotta be
Because she
torture.
would go out, and by this time, after the time I've gotten my daughter back in the plane, I couldn't move anymore.
Yeah.
So I was, her backs were broken, or my right foot was flipped over the other way. And there was nothing left, and just to lay there and pray.
Well, and you also helped Donnie.
Right. But after that, I couldn't touch her, I couldn't, so that was, you got to experience these things that you don't always,
You don't often
Right.
experience in life,
Absolutely.
just in everyday life. So I was asking you if your military background would have kicked in at that point.
It definitely did, and you prepare for these things, right?
Right.
And you see things, and you combat, and it prepares you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And so much of it does. But when it's your family,
Oh,
there's nothing. I don't know. I mean, for myself, it was nothing prepares you for that.
right.
And when you're hearing your son cry out for you
Yeah.
for 16 hours, and all you can do is just try to console him, but
Yeah.
you know there's not much
Not much you can actually physically do.
that's something that's, I don't know how you prepare for that.
No. So you're in that situation. All you really can do, because physically you can't get over there and help them, so you can just console and
Right.
give words of encouragement. You said you're praying. You're just trying to keep it together and
That's
say,
exactly.
keep breathing.
And that was exactly it. And that was it. Just keep it together, keep everyone awake, keep everyone just talking to each other, and just told each other how much we love each other, and just trying to take our minds off the situation, and talking about what we're going to do when we get home.
Wow.
One of the many blessings was that even though I was trapped and our son was trapped, there was actually, because the plane did split, there was a hole, and I could reach out with my left hand, and he could
Touch him?
reach and touch him. So throughout the night, we were able to do that. And when he was with our daughter after he brought her back, and he got to a point where he couldn't move anymore, but he was able to be with her. So, like, even though We weren't all able to be together. It was just a blessing that he was able to be with Mackenzie, and I was
That
able to
is-
touch Donnie's hand. So
Those seemingly small things, these little coincidences that are happening as I'm listening, are just somebody was watching over it. Just the having, you got to trim a tree back home, so you brought the right piece of equipment.
We
Yes.
literally had everything we could have possibly needed. Maybe we wanted more.
Right.
And that's kind of been like the story of like our takeaway over the last several years of dealing. Like I wish things were maybe a little bit different. Maybe
Sure.
I want a little bit more. But we were already been provided for
Wow.
with everything that we need. And
That's
it's
powerful.
learning how to use those tools that we were given.
Right.
And if we don't know how to use those tools, maybe we need to refine them. Maybe we need to, learn how to become more master craftsmen. And maybe
Right.
learn how to use our tools a little better.
even I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, even our daughter, who, when she got back to the plane, because it was August, but it's still Alaska in the mountains, it's cold, it was raining that evening. And so when she came back, she was wet, and so Don had to, she had to take her clothes off. And while we were at in-service, they worked with a different teacher who didn't have to go to all the classes that Don and I had to go, and she taught them to do a quilt, like a square on a quilt, and she did that first square with them, and then the rest of the week she kind of did it on her own so that when they left they would have something to take. And so we had that quilt that was in the plane that was dry for her to come and wrap up in and keep warm that whole night.
That's unbelievable. So then you're surviving, and you think the rescue people have gone and maybe missed you. That's got to be hard to get over in your mind, but then you hear them coming back. What was that like?
Amazing.
It was amazing.
Yeah, you could feel the wind, the leaves
Yeah,
were
it was,
swirling around.
absolutely.
And
So they had a big chopper and they hovered
came,
overhead?
Yeah, they came over, pretty sure it was a paypock, and they flew over, and you could just feel the whole plane just kind of bouncing.
So
And
a couple of guys come down the line?
Yeah, one
they
guy-
Had, they had two groups. One, they flew over with a C-130, and they parachuted off onto a part of the mountain. And then I believe the second group, they did like a fast rope down. And then,
It's amazing what
Wow.
they
I
could
mean,
do,
they're
what they
absolutely
did.
what they do. I mean, they're absolutely heroes. I mean, they
Incredible.
risk their lives every day.
Yeah.
It's
Huh.
amazing.
Wow. So they get you out of there, and then you get you to the nearest hospital, I guess, or
Yeah.
they're probably they're doing first aid and
Yeah,
stabilizing you guys
absolutely.
on the way.
They had picked, so they ended up bringing us up in the litter baskets
Yep.
up into the chopper, and they were immediately, starting medical,
Yeah.
care on us, and then they flew us to McGrath, where a C-130 was waiting on an airstrip that would fly us to Anchorage.
Oh.
And then once we landed in Elmendorf Air Force Base, they had an ambulance waiting to bring us directly to the hospital from there.
Wow.
So it was a pretty coordinated effort,
Yeah.
the whole thing, and everyone was just, it is.
The first responders, whether it be firefighters, ambulance, but even Coast Guard and rescue people, is just, they don't get enough
They are so taken for
appreciation.
granted.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
When you're in a situation like you guys, and we hope nobody ever has to be in that situation, but when you are, my goodness, there's
Absolutely.
nothing like it. So that's an incredible story. So then you took a couple years of recovery and healing, and emotional healing and physical healing. Your kids, how are they doing?
Our oldest son, Donnie, is 18, and he's in his first year of college.
Nice.
And
Studying, he wants to be a wildlife biologist.
Very cool.
Everything, we love the outdoors.
Yeah.
Everything, we just want to be immersed in the outdoors. He's doing well. Our daughter's getting ready for college this coming fall.
And as far as their injuries, say mostly broken bones, things like that, they're able to recover quite well.
Yeah.
They were pretty resilient. Our son still has some, we've been dealing with blackouts. He's been losing vision.
Yeah.
But that seems to have been
it's under control right
under
now.
control. So everyone's doing well.
Great. You guys as well. You had some pretty intense injuries. You're well on your way to recovery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're at a point where it's funny. When we first had our accident, we received a letter from a gentleman in California who was in a really bad automobile accident, and he had told us that he didn't really find real recovery relief until about 7 years. And we were
Yeah.
like, 7 years?
Yeah.
And it's funny because we're at our 8-year
We just
mark.
hit our
Oh,
8th
good.
year, and we are literally finally,
Yeah.
like, we can start to feel like we're moving forward.
Nice.
You know, and there's been I've struggled with a lot of cognitive issues, like I haven't been able to return back to teaching, and, you know, so, you know, I've, when we were in Maine, I tried to do some homestead and then try to just do stuff that I was familiar with and try to do that. But then there was the physical aspect of that, and now I can't physically
Right.
do this. So it's been learning how to find purpose
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
and that's been, you know, me learning that, you know, there's a new purpose.
Right.
You know, and with all
It
this,
just changed. Our purpose
Yeah,
changed.
yeah.
so it came down to, you know, evaluating our lives. You go through stuff like this, you're constantly evaluating. You have such a desire to live, there's such a desire now to go out and just enjoy this beautiful gift of life we've been
Right.
given. But now you have a little bit of, I don't even want to call it a disability, but we have a little bit of maybe a disadvantage from what we were used to. And that's where it came down to, where, you know, like, how much do we care about this stuff?
Right.
I mean, we own our home. We have, you know, some land. We live on a coast of Maine, and it's a beautiful place. We're content, you know,
Mhm.
but it's stuff.
Yeah.
And for us, I mean, and maybe it's not for everyone, but we know we love to travel. I want to be in the outdoors, you know, and now we have found, you know, there's tools here to allow us to be able to do that. And that's what's so awesome about, you know, the overland and, like, you know,
Community, that whole lifestyle.
It's right, it's perfect for us right now. And
I-
we're so looking forward.
It reminds me of what you said when you're on the plane and you have these tools that were provided for you. You might want, you know, a different situation. You might want things to be better right then and there, but then you learned to use the tools that were provided. Let's use what we have, and it sounds like you're doing that in life.
Absolutely.
I mean, you might wish for not having reoccurring problems with your back or whatever from the, you know, that would be an easier life, but it sounds like you're taking that exact same concept and saying, these are the tools we've been given. Let's adapt to
Yeah.
what we have and learn to use these tools, and life goes on and make our life.
That's exactly, that's 100% where we're at, and that's what we want our kids, like, life is hard. You know, we're all gonna face adversity and challenges and things that we wish they weren't there, but they
Yeah.
are there. So,
Well, I think-
how do we face them and how do we move forward?
Right.
I mean, just keep moving, you know?
It
Yeah.
took us a few years to get to
Yeah,
this point.
yeah, but it's incredible that you
Yeah.
have.
Yeah, and so now it's like, it's okay. That was our old self, our old bodies, our old life, and now, like, we could sit and dwell on that, or we could take what we have and enjoy it.
Well, there's an incredible message there for anyone watching. For me, myself, I'm listening going, that is unbelievable. Just the message of not wishing for a different situation, but learning to adapt to what you have and use those tools you do have. If you don't know how to use them, learn how to use them. Become, like you said, we've got to become experts with the tools we have. And that's a metaphor for life. I don't think there's anybody watching where everything is 100% perfect. And rather than wishing for a different situation, the message we heard today from these folks who, in the most intense of situations you could ever imagine, learn to adapt to the tools around them that you probably wouldn't have even noticed you had you not been in that situation. So that's incredible. So they've now got a Patriot trailer, and they're going to be heading west and then heading all the way up to Alaska. So if people want to follow along on your journey, I know you haven't really done much on social media yet, but if you want to share that, then
Yeah,
folks can
absolutely.
kind of keep in touch with you.
Right now, we just have an Instagram account that's a long time gone.
Okay, a long time gone. So just at a long time gone. That's cool. I like
And I
that.
would have talked.
But you were gonna cry. I know. I could tell.
No,
She
I
was
mean,
choking up.
yeah, it is an incredible story, and just the bond of the family
Absolutely.
and how you are using your time is such a gift. To
And
be together.
you have all been an inspiration to us,
Oh,
because
so
we've
it's
kind of
like-
been a little scared to do that.
Yeah.
And
And,
we're not anymore.
And that's like
Good.
the whole thing you mentioned, like the chance speakers, like here we are.
Yeah.
Like, we followed, and we knew we wanted something different. We knew we wanted to include the outdoors. We knew we wanted to travel and just figuring out how.
Right.
We're not RV people, we're not, like, we need to be outdoors,
Yeah.
we need to be remote.
Close to nature.
And we stumbled upon your New Zealand trip, and it was like that right
Yeah.
there somehow. Like, we need to figure out something similar, you know, and it doesn't have to be this elaborate setup. It doesn't have to be just, you know, the same thing with use a tool, learn how to use the tools that you have,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, we often say, and you guys are doing the same thing, you know, you can always buy more stuff. You can always make more money at some point. But one thing you can't make more of is time. And so
No.
I think you guys are, have grasped that concept and been gifted, as hard to call that an accident, a gift. You've been gifted with an awareness that most people don't have about life. And so thank you. Thanks for sharing your story. And I hope you guys will buy the book if they ever write one. I definitely will be your first customer because there's not only an incredible story there, but there's a message that everybody needs to hear. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing your story.
Love you.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much.
I'll just give you a hug.
Thank you. Thank you so much.